Republican Senator Lindsey Graham this past week during a press conference not only attacked the Inflation Reduction Act that will give the money to hire 87,000 new IRS agents, basically enforcers, to make sure the wealthy are paying their fair share in taxes. So not only did he attack that, but then he invoked a higher power to somehow save us. Save us from these IRS agents. Here's what he had to say. I'm so sorry. Here it is. If you think the federal government's out of control now, God help us when you get 87,000 new IRS agents who are looking under every rock and stone to get money out of your pocket. God help us. May the Lord Almighty save us from these terrible bureaucrats who just want you to pay what you owe for the luxury of living here in the United States and benefiting from all of our capitalistic ways, right? You're benefiting from our military, from our police forces, from our public education. You're benefiting from our roads and bridges and infrastructure. You're benefiting from our water treatment. You're benefiting from our energy infrastructure. And God help us if we think those rich bastards are going to pay for it, right? Right, Lindsay? Isn't that what you're getting at? Because that's what you're pissed about. You're pissed off because we're going to have 87,000 new IRS agents whose purpose in being hired at all was to make sure that we have better enforcement of the tax laws here in the United States. Now, at one point in this press conference, Graham, of course, did try to say that, well, let me read this. It's supposed to be for the rich, but the rich have a bunch of lawyers and accountants. Okay. So you're basically admitting there that, yeah, rich people hide money and they use these loopholes, sometimes not exactly in a legal way, but, they can fight it. They've got the lawyers, they've got the accountants, they've got the fuzzy math, as George W. Bush used to call it, about other things, but either way. And he says, of course, they're coming after you. You, the small business owner, you, the middle-class American worker. That's what this is about, because he also pointed out that most audits occur on people making less than $75,000 a year, which has, of course, become a staple in Republican talking points while tackling this issue. And there's a reason why most of the audits focus on people making less than $75,000 a year. That's not a bug, that's a feature of what Republicans have done to the IRS over the years. After cutting and cutting and cutting the funding, cutting the staffing, cutting everything they can from the IRS, they no longer had the tools to go after the wealthy elite. As I've pointed out plenty of times in the past, it takes about one person half a day, if that, to go through the taxes of your average middle-class family. We don't actually have write-offs. We don't have all these big deductions. Most of them take the standard deduction that is offered. So they're not going through and claiming all these things that an IRS agent would have to go through and check later. That's why it's easy for them to do it. So they can still say, hey, we did, 100,000 audits this year. Yeah, but you only had to spend 2 hours because John and Jane Smith only had, 2 things on their tax return. You looked at their things, W-2s, and said, okay, yeah, you're good to go. Bye. For wealthy elites, because, as Lindsey Graham did correctly point out, they've got lawyers, they've got accountants, they've got multiple accounts, some not even in the United States. It takes months to properly conduct audits on these individuals. It takes more than one IRS agent to go through it. It takes teams of people to go through these things, months of work. So that's why most of the audits do focus on those making, barely anything in this country. Because Republicans cut and slashed the IRS to the point where they couldn't go after their wealthy donors. And that's what terrifies Lindsey Graham. So that is, of course, is why he's begging God to help us. Because God forbid his wealthy donors have to pay a little bit more in taxes. Hey everyone, this is Aspen. And did you know that for the low cost of $0 per day, you can subscribe to the Fair and Balanced YouTube channel. We also encourage you to like, comment, and share. But again, click that subscribe button and help Aspen not be so grumpy.